All right. Well, this is a sad video to make, but the cat's out of the bag. Chess boxing is canceled. So let's talk about it. Last night, Ludwig put out a tweet that essentially said, before announcing this event, that it wasn't going to happen. There were hints, but in his own words, super bummed to announce that chess boxing will not be happening. Definitely the biggest failure of my career, but has motivated me to be the best creator I can be in 2024. And after working on this for 8 months, after the last 2 to 3 weeks of really trying to save the event, talking to Ludwig and the rest of the team pretty much every day, trying to figure it out, it's sad to see it official. Not only is it sad to see it official, it's sad for it to also be the biggest failure of my career, because what Ludwig is not saying, and what I respect him immensely for, is he's taking full responsibility for this event not happening. And that's what great leaders do. They take extreme ownership. Throughout this process, he's been super high integrity. He makes decisions with not just his head, but his heart. And I've loved working with Ludwig. But the reality of it is, my responsibility on the team was a couple of things. One, run it back and co-commentate with Ludwig and Gotham. Two, help manage the fighters. And last is make sure it's legal. Get it sanctioned. Get it regulated by a body that can oversee it. Train officials and make sure we're above board. And I didn't get that done. We ran into a lot of unforeseen obstacles. There's a lot of reasons and justifications and excuses why this didn't happen. But at the end of the day, that was my role on this team, and I didn't get it done. Let's get into it. Last night, when Ludwig announced it on stream and made a video right after, he included this clip, and it's why I'm making the video. The Vegas trip, where I had a friendly interaction with the Nevada State Athletic Commission.
Frankly, the closest we ever got to getting this event sanctioned was Matt, the commentator of last year's chess boxing event, taking a one-day notice flight across the country to Vegas, and then, I'm not kidding, this actually happened, bombing the commissioner's meeting after it ended, and then sitting them all down and explaining chess boxing. That was the closest we got to getting it sanctioned. And it still wasn't close enough to get it in the timeline we needed.
And that's right. That's essentially what happened. Now, he says a day notice. It was actually like 6 hours of notice. We made the call at 1 a.m. Monday night. I was on a plane at 6 a.m. Tuesday morning to make the 9 a.m. commission meeting. But I'll get into the entire Vegas story in a second, after I give a little bit more context here. So, like I said before, I've been promoting combat sports for 12 years. I've competed as a fighter. I've managed amateurs. I've managed pros. And I've put on big events. We had this one in Mercedes-Benz Stadium where we actually partnered with USA Boxing. They oversaw all of our charity boxing bouts between first-time fighters. This is Parker Lippman. He's the son of the founder of Zaxby's Chicken. He's also on a reality TV show called Buckhead Shore. And he fits the same kind of mold as the people that we were going to have in Ludwig's event. I'm used to managing these people, working with these people, getting them approved by sanctioning bodies, and working specifically with USA Boxing. But we did this event in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where the Falcons play, where Atlanta United plays. Black tie event, open bar, great production. Now, Ludwig puts it to shame. But these are my events. We shift it to another sanctioning body called ISKA. So ISKA is International Sport Kickboxing Association, and in certain states, they are allowed by the state to oversee not just kickboxing, Muay Thai, Krav Maga, all of the mixed martial arts that these types of sanctioning bodies can, but they can also oversee forms of boxing that are not covered by the Amateur Sports Act of 1978. Ludwig talked about this in his video. It's called the Ted Stevens Act, and it has roots in a lot of logic. It's made essentially to make sure that we win the Olympics every year. Prior to this act, we had a bunch of fractionalized organizations that were all trying to train up youth to be the best in their sport and send to the Olympics. And because they were different organizations with politics and competition between those organizations, Team USA didn't always send the best athletes. Sometimes the best athlete was on an organization that had a disagreement with the organization in charge, and the athlete paid the price for some BS politics. And so Ted Stevens, this representative from Alaska, came in and said, hey, we should do away with all competition in the space. It's America first. All these organizations are going to merge into one for each sport. And that's going to be good because now all the athletes are in the same place, sharing resources and going to the Olympics and kicking ass. And it worked. It worked for the Olympics. But since then, the creep of the scope of this legislation has made it very difficult for organizations like mine, Brawl for a Cause, and events like what Ludwig tries to do with chess boxing and other creators try to do with things like Creator Clash, Misfits, etc. Makes it very difficult for them to operate because no one in those events is training to go to the Olympics or wants to go pro. And I shouldn't say no one because Jake Paul is doing his thing, but a very small percentage of people actually come out of an event like that and make fighting their life. And there's a big group of people that would be casual hobbyists if this act was expanded to be able to include and allow and support those people to box in a safer way. But because USA Boxing oversees specifically Olympic style amateur boxing, it has to be those rules. Otherwise, they can't oversee it. And I understand their position. They have an insurance policy for all of their events that extends to the promoter and to the fighters. And if it's not exactly the Olympic style amateur boxing rule set, that insurance policy can't apply to them because they're doing something different than what they got insured for. But at the end of the day, we had to work our way around this Amateur Sports Act. We had to work our way around getting a promoter's license through the Nevada State Athletic Commission, which requires us either to have an MMA sanctioning body, which would mean chess boxing was its own MMA sport, which was our goal, or have to go through USA Boxing, in which case we'd have to change our rule set to essentially be Olympic-style amateur boxing with longer break periods, which we couldn't get done because of the longer break periods where they play chess. And this brings us to a good way to talk about where we are in the chess boxing history, which is we are still very early on. The sport was created in 2003 in Berlin by Ipe Rumbing, our founder. The only events that have been in the United States have not been sanctioned like other combat sports. Like, for example, in Los Angeles last year, we got oversight from the World Chess Boxing Organization, which gave us a sanction and flew over officials that have overseen hundreds of fights in order to make sure our event was safe. But we couldn't do that the same way in Vegas. There's just a lot more scrutiny and oversight because Vegas is the #1 combat sport market in the world. And because gambling's so big there and mafia kind of activity is big there, they require all kinds of background checks and everything. We checked every single box except for that our sport was not recognized by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Prior to Ludwig, I didn't have the kind of bank account or the kind of microphone that Ludwig has to be able to connect with people, to let people know what's going on, to get butts in seats for a new sport. This event, and by extension, this sport would not be where it is today without Ludwig. That event in Los Angeles last year, it completely sped up our growth, our exposure, our trajectory for our little community by an insane multiple. I'll die, and Ludwig will be one of the people I thank on my deathbed for what he's doing for our sport and by extension for me. But we weren't always there. So this is from my very first chess boxing match, which was in the World Championship in India. This was one of the qualifying matches, I think quarter or semifinals. And this is Ipe Rumbing, the founder of chess boxing, who is just on his phone live commentating my match, and I'll just show you a few seconds of it so you can see how far we've come. I was a little aggro back then.
No, it's not the finals. It's semi-finals. It's qualification.
That's Ipe's voice.
Okay. But Matt Thomas looks really good. I mean, the Indian fighter is slightly more skilled, but the stamina of Matt is impressive.
And Ipe's right. My opponent had a lot more boxing experience than I had.
Nice. Woof.
Anyway.
Stay focused, Matt.
It definitely brings up some emotions hearing his voice, because this was in 2018. In 2020, Ipe passed away. The chess boxing world hasn't been without that charismatic, visionary kind of founder. There's been a lot of disorganization. But one of the last things Ipe said to me before he died is, we need a voice for the sport. And we need a Joe Rogan of chess boxing. Be that person. And that's what I intend to do. You know, I commentate the international events, which led me to getting in touch with Ludwig when he was planning his event last year, which led me to start working for him on helping him to get last year's event sanctioned on a very short timeline from the international sanctioning body, which worked in California but won't work in Nevada. Led me to getting onto the team much earlier in the cycle this year. I started working for him 8 months ago, the beginning of February, on all this. Helping to recruit fighters, helping to communicate with fighters, helping to get in touch with all these sanctioning bodies, hire consultants where we didn't have direct experience, hiring people in the space that have decade-long or multiple decade-long relationships with commissioners, because relationships are how you get things done. And despite our best efforts, despite having a lot of momentum and no real objections to any of these bodies that wanted to help us, that were sympathetic to our cause, that wanted to make this happen, what it came down to is timeline. We wanted to do December 2nd in Vegas. And Ludwig drew it out as long as he could. He gave me an extra 2 weeks to try to make a miracle happen. And it didn't work out per his video last night. So here are the fighters that we had lined up. We actually had a few more than these. So I think the main one that isn't listed here is Hugs and Sardoche, which would have been so hype. I would have loved to see that match. That was one of the ones I was most excited about. But this is like the saddest part, right? These people were willing to try chess boxing, willing to put themselves in harm's way, willing to train for 3-4 months in something brand new and take time out of their schedule. All these people make tons of money streaming, using their face, their brain, their mouth to earn a living, and they're putting that at risk to compete in this sport that I love, that I'm passionate about. It's amazing. So here we go. Vegas story. It was already a week past when we wanted sanction locked in and tickets ready to go on sale. And we had a call with the head of Ludwig's production team. And then Ludwig. It was the three of us on a call. It was a little after midnight. And it felt like the end of the rope. Ludwig was at his limit. And we had one last chance for a Hail Mary. We needed to be on the Nevada State Athletic Commission board agenda in order to get approved for a promoter's license. And the last chance for a board meeting that we had was September 19th, last Tuesday. So at 1 a.m. the night before, we make the decision that someone, maybe all three of us or maybe just one of us, should go to the board meeting. It made the most sense for me to go. I wrote the rule set for chess boxing. I've been in touch with all of these commissioners that we had access to, with the sanctioning bodies, speak their language. So, I was going to do my best to try to convince them to take this on or give us more direct guidance on how to make it work. So I didn't sleep much. At 1 a.m. I bought the flight. I packed a book bag, and I got maybe an hour or two of sleep and drove to the airport. It's a long flight from Atlanta to Vegas. I think 4 or 5 hours or something. That whole time, I was writing and rewriting and rehearsing this statement that I was going to make during the public comment section of the agenda, which anyone from the public can just show up. You don't have to be on the agenda. You can just show up and say anything for 3 minutes. 3 minutes is your cutoff, though. They start a timer in front of you, and when it hits 3 minutes, you're cut off. I get it down. I pray on the flight. I feel Ipe's presence, and I break down crying. There was a lot of emotion. I was the crazy guy on the planes, sobbing in row 15. And we land a little late. I call an Uber ahead of time to be waiting. When I run out, I hop in the Uber, and it's clear that I was going to be late for the 9 a.m. And we get there about 25 minutes late. I walk into the Nevada State Athletic Commission building. I find where the meeting is. I run up to it. I burst in the door, and it was not what I was expecting. So I walk in, and all the seats are empty, and the commissioners are still around the table, but they're kind of like shuffling papers, packing up bags, whatever. And I kind of announce myself. Hey, excuse me, has public comments already happened? And the lawyer for the Nevada State Athletic Commission kind of pipes up and kind of cuts me off. Was like, meeting's done, minutes are closed, nothing else to do here. And I say, okay, I totally understand that. Sorry I'm late. I got this flight at 1 a.m. last night. I boarded at 6:30 this morning from Atlanta and flew just to give this 3-minute comment. And I'd really appreciate it if you hear me out. And they said, nothing can be discussed, nothing can be deliberated on, nothing can be voted on. I said, yeah, not looking for any of that. I really am just looking for some guidance here about our sport called chessboxing, an event that we want to do here in December. And one of the commissioners that I'd already interacted with piped up. It was like, I'm willing to stay and listen. And I said, thank you. And anyone else that's willing to stay, I would really appreciate it if you stick around to hear what I have to say. To my surprise, they all stayed. They stayed seated. They invited me to pull up a chair to the table, so it wasn't this like stage and me on the other side, in the crowd kind of vibe. It was like all of us sitting around the table and having a discussion. And I give this comment, and I'm just gonna play you the audio of the first part of the comment because I had my phone in my pocket and I was recording. So here we go.
I promise not to say anything. Okay, thank you for your time and for not walking out. So my name is Matt Thomas. I'm a promoter and a commentator out of Georgia. I'm also a former world champion and captain of Team USA for a sport called chessboxing. You might not have heard of chessboxing, but our sport was started 20 years ago in Europe. As a combination between the biggest game in the world, chess, and the biggest combat sport in the world, boxing. Over the last 2 decades, it evolved from that initial hybrid sport into an exhilarating battle of brain and brawn, with a unique rule set, and engaged international audience. Since winning in 2018, I made it my life's mission to try to bring this sport to the United States. And it's been difficult. That said, we've had success through partnering with Jacob and JK Productions and one of the biggest personalities in live streaming and YouTube, Ludwig Agron.
Sorry for stuttering. So, anyway, comment continues. When it ends, all of them, again, to my surprise, stick around for another almost 30 minutes and discuss intricacies of the rule set, potential solutions, what kind of timelines it would take for those solutions. And I felt an extreme sense of sincerity and support from these people that actually wanted this to happen. But it gave me hope. It gave me real hope coming out of it. And one of the commissioners said that I should come by the UFC event that night, Dana White's Contender Series, and continue the conversation with some of the commissioners, meet some people that may be able to help. And so through Ludwig was able to get a ticket, was able to shake hands with Dana White, meet Jorge Masvidal, talk to the commissioners that I'd already talked to, but some that I hadn't talked to, and some of the staffers that actually worked the event and run some of the rules by them. And this time last week, I had hope. I thought we were going to be able to get this done. The first flight out of Vegas the next morning, I flew back to Atlanta and I got right back to work on calling ISKA, calling USA Boxing, trying to figure out a path forward for them to co-sanction, trying to figure out different rule sets that they could approve, trying to figure out if we could just get USA Boxing to oversee just the boxing, trying all these avenues that we had felt like we'd already tried, but now with a little bit more support, a little bit more direction, a little bit more clarity that we could get it done. But what it came down to is timing, risk, and responsibility, and what I think is a very mature, high-integrity decision by Ludwig. We didn't have enough time. We have the responsibility to fighters to put on the best event and the safest event that we can. And I have so much respect for how Ludwig handled this, how transparent he is with all of you, how much empathy he has, not just for the fighters and other creators that were in the event, but every single person that had their hand in the event and that he works with and that works for him, depends on him for food on their table and rent getting paid. And I'm not gonna lie, the last 2 nights I haven't gotten sleep. We made the decision the night before we made the announcement, didn't sleep, and then last night with the live stream and the video, there's a lot of unrest and what ifs running through my head. And what I've resolved to do is what Ludwig tweeted, which is use this as motivation. Make 2024 the best event it can be in every category. Not just the entertainment side that you see, but behind the scenes, the foundation of what makes this kind of stuff work, because everyone else did their job. At Off-Brand, in Mogul Moves, recruiting the fighters, doing the art, planning the event logistics, getting an incredible venue. Everyone did their job, and I didn't. I fell short of one of the components of my job that ended up canceling or postponing the event. So when Ludwig said something like, this is the biggest failure of his career, know that when people say that, it's just the tip of the iceberg. That a lot more goes into something like that, and great leaders do what he did. Great leaders take full responsibility for the members of his team, but it wasn't his failure that led to this event not happening. It was mine, and yeah, we could have done in other markets where I had more confidence that we would get past, but at the end of the day, we all chose Vegas. We all thought we could make it happen, and it didn't. So I wanted to share the Vegas story. I wanted to give a little bit more context to what unarmed combat and combat sports look like in the United States, why it's so difficult to bring new ones here, and let you guys know, one, how grateful I am for someone like Ludwig. Two, how much I love this sport, how much passion I have for it, how much of my time and focus and career is going to be tied to it, and bringing it to the United States and helping it grow and scale and bringing more people into our community. And three, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I contributed to not being able to have a kick-ass show in December. So I'll end it there. Thank y'all. And hopefully I'll see you in and around a ring here soon.